Welcome to the No Limits Life podcast, where we explore the mind, body, soul, and the unseen forces that shape human transformation. I'm your host, Nordine, two-time Mr. Universe, best-selling author, high-performance coach, and the author of the upcoming book, The No Limits Life, 365 Daily Meditation to Unlock Your Strength in Life and Live Beyond Your Comfort Zone. And as always, I'm here with my producer, Emilio. Today's conversation takes us into the world of consciousness, intuition, healing, and the deeper layers of the human experience. Whether you fully understand these subjects or are simply curious about them, this episode is about opening the mind to possibilities beyond the surface of everyday life. Our guest today is Tara Sutphen, an internationally recognized author, clinical hypnotherapist, radio host, and spiritual teacher whose work has touched people around the world. Tara is the author of Turn On Your Psychic Powers, Blame It on Your Past Lives, Soul Agreements, the Abenda Chronicles, Soul Riders, and many other transformative works exploring consciousness, healing, and spiritual evolution. She has also created acclaimed meditation and healing audio programs, some receiving Grammy nominations, and has spent decades helping people explore the subconscious mind, past life healing, emotional transformation, and deeper self-awareness. Her work blends hypnotherapy, mysticism, meditation, shamanism, and energy healing into a unique practice designed to help people reconnect with themselves and their purpose. Before we begin, Tara, I want to ground today's conversation in this quote. The deeper you understand yourself, the less you fear the unknown. So the deeper you understand yourself, the less you fear the unknown. Tara, your work invites people to explore parts of themselves many are afraid to confront or even acknowledge. So how does this quote resonate with your life and the work you do helping people heal and awaken?
Hi. Well, that was quite the introduction. Thank you so much, Nordine.
You're welcome,
and it's
Tara.
really wonderful to see you. I really resonate actually with that because, becoming a hypnotherapist and being a psychic, and my work has been like this for many, many years now, decades. And I feel that people need to be grounded. We create our own reality. And so there is no fear because you trust that, we're on the adventure. We're going to step into something new, but it's going to be a great thing. It's not to be a fearful thing. So if we can put our mind into that, set direction, and of course it's very hard sometimes because, we're pushed. We're sometimes just really shoved into a hard direction. But if you truly live on a shamanic path in the world where you trust your life and you trust every step you're going to take, that's to say that, you wanted to be a doctor, so you studied to be a doctor. You wanted to be, anything that you want to be, you become. But you become the best that you can be. You just keep stepping into a greater self.
You have that vision. You know who you are. You know who you want to become, and so because you know that it's not so much you're engaged into the process, and you know what to do to get there. So as long as you put yourself, as you said, into this mindful space, and the unknown becomes more sustainable or something that you're okay with. You're no longer afraid of it. Your journey into psychic sciences, hypnotherapy, and spiritual healing began very early. Was there a defining moment in your life when you realized you were seeing or experiencing the world differently than most people?
I was had a near-death experience when I was 6 weeks old, and then again when I was 8 years old. So, 6 weeks.
6 weeks
6
old,
weeks.
and
and then 8 years old. And so, I remembered the experience very vividly, of course. But what happened is that I remembered everything in my babyhood because of it. And I know why we don't remember past lives when we're little kids, because we're too terrified about the people we're meeting and the people that, we have contracts with, because we have soul contracts with the people that we meet and the people that we, invite into our lives. I just knew how people felt, maybe on a deeper level.
You knew, you mean you felt it, you felt it? When you say you knew, at a emotional level, that is, right?
Yeah, emotionally, in the inner knowing of when to say something nice to somebody, or if they, they could be in true crisis. And what do you do? As a child, you feel pretty helpless, but it would be saying the right thing to somebody to try to get them into alignment of taking a better step for themselves. A good example is when I was 4 years old, I used to talk to this woman all the time in the grocery store. And I always made my mom, you have to check out with this woman named Sue. And when we did, my mom didn't pay any attention. She had 3 kids with her. She wasn't paying any attention. But Sue and I would always be in deep conversation like we were in a bubble. And I knew that she was in huge trauma. Her son was dying. And he was a pretty young child. And so when he died, she called my parents to bring me over to the house. And so
you were
my
how old
parents
again?
just 4.
Oh, wow.
So I went over to the house, but I was telling her that the angels were there. The truck from the morgue was in the driveway. They were taking body out, but the whole house was open to the other side. And I realized I always saw the other side.
And that's when you started, when you knew you had that ability. Then a lot of people struggle emotionally because they feel disconnected from themselves, from purpose, or from peace. In your experience, what is the greatest thing preventing people from truly healing?
I think that they just get confused. They don't really click into their path and their purpose. And their purpose may not be a big purpose this time. Say like yours and my purpose has been a pretty big road, but not everybody has that. You've maybe come to rest this lifetime, or that you've, come to feed people, or you've come to do, make housing for people. And, it's a whole, we're all kind of set in how we are supposed to, help people along.
So would you say that there's a level of connection, people are not ready to heal because they're under fear, they're experiencing all kinds of emotional burden, and so they're not here. And when you're not here, you're everywhere else, and you're not giving yourself a chance to heal, because healing is not something that happens in the past or the future. It's something that happens in the now via loving yourself, first of all. If you're disconnected from that, huge factor, the factor of love, that powerful emotion, then it is difficult, would you say?
Yes, but that's where I think that I got into hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and because, it's the power of the mind and it's strengthening the mind. And I don't think that we sometimes, we'll think what we're going to meditate, say, and we start to meditate, but then you think, oh, I have 10,000 things to do, like laundry or work commitments, and then you don't do it right. So the thing is that with guided meditation, and you have to sit there that 15 minutes, and if you go through, I like to trick the mind. So the mind is, so it's about following a story, and what you're really doing is you're clearing up your life so that your health gets back on track and you're getting back on track, and you're having fun while you do it. That's what I usually do.
When you're talking about meditation, meditation is a great way to create more awareness in your life, and most people that are new to meditation, they think that their mind has to be, or thoughts have to be pushed, and they spend their time, into that meditation chasing the thoughts or pushing the thoughts away. It's not. I don't think that's the greatest way to do it. When I teach meditation, I tell people it's okay to think. Just let the thought pass and then go back to your breathing. Go back to your word that you chose as a mantra. But yeah, it's the key. Yeah, the key is again, when people are disconnected from themselves, from love, they are incapable. And it's not that they are incapable, but it's practically impossible for purpose to show itself, because you're not peaceful. So purpose doesn't show itself until you're ready to accept it, would you say? People must understand that it all happens in the heart. I mean, you have to feel your purpose. You just don't say, okay, my purpose is to be this or do that. That's okay. That's fine. But if you're not connected to that part of you that accepts it, that connects to that part of you that loves, if you don't believe, deep down, that's your purpose. And then I always say that, you may have one big purpose, but you have what I call sub-purposes, little purposes. Every day, your purpose is to be a good parent. Your purpose is to be a good, boss. Your purpose is to be a good employee, and those are many purposes that lead you to the big purpose, which is to become who you always dreamed of becoming. Whether it's having, a business or being an actor or an artist, you have little purposes that you follow that may not have anything to do with your big purpose. Your mind is telling you that, but in actuality, you are putting yourself in that place, okay, a place of love, and you are being positive. A lot of people don't understand really the power of positivity. Sometimes positivity doesn't show itself as positivity at all. It's how you react to it, how you put yourself into, that love place where you are a good person following a good path that will lead you to a great experience. But you have to put yourself in that kind of environment. Straighten the statement. Yes, children, may not know, but children they're more mindful than we are. They don't have that ego that is creating all kinds of havoc into your head. So, purpose for kids, they may not know it, but they're living it. Their purpose is to play with their toys. The purpose is to, play with their pets. That's beautiful. We don't do this as adults. We forget that we are a child. The child within is completely forgotten. So my next question for you. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, people will ask me why I have horses. And, I do a lot of horse therapy as well. I do it as a work as well. But the thing is that I say, well, what do you mean? I'm living my childhood.
Yes. All of these things that put you back into that, when you connect to that child within, possibilities are endless because you become curious. And I would say even more creative. Your creative abilities are that much, more when you're a child. Your work covers everything from past lives to subconscious programming and meditation. For someone new to this world, where should they begin if they simply want more clarity and balance in their life?
That's a good question for really so many people, because really people wait until they have a crisis, like a lot of health crisis out there. And, and I think of you when I have to go back a little bit. when I think of you, I think of people, really what they want to know with you is how you began, because you went from this to this to this to this, until you became such, greatness that it's an interesting pathway for people because they don't even know where to begin. What do I do? So I would say that the first thing really is starting to eat well. And the second should be that they do a little bit of meditation. And then the third thing is they start making clear decisions, like any sort of goals, but they're small goals. And then the decision making. The decision making is very important. That we start to actually know what we want. What do we want? Because when we know what we want, then we start creating our reality.
Refer to nutrition and to me, as you said, knowing where you want to go, what you want, is knowing who you are and where you are now. Finding out where you want to be and where you want to go, then putting a plan together and execute without question, day in and day out. In that application, in that experience of a daily experience of getting, walking your journey, lies the nutrition, which is to me 60% of the equation. Good quality sleep, exercising, clarity doesn't come when you lack sleep and you eating crap and you always in that chaos. Clarity will never show itself. You don't take care of yourself. You have to have a certain amount of responsibility in taking care of yourself, and then creating clarity. Including meditation. People are afraid of the word meditation because they think it's a woo-woo or religious, or it is not. Meditation is a practice that allows you to expand your level of awareness. That's all it is. So you create clarity, by combining all these things. And, when people refer to balance, I often say to people, there is no such a thing as balance. There is what we call harmony. Because balance, it's off, all day long. You find yourself in balance and then it's off, So harmony is more, in my current book, Inner Fitness, I talk about the harmony between mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual aspect of one's life. Okay? It's like 4 reservoirs. You don't have to fill them up all the way, but you have to make sure that they're not empty. Have a good nutrition, meditate, pray, sleep, exercise, etc., etc. So only then will you be able to, like I was referring to a good person, good person or bad person is a choice. It's a choice you make by abiding to these, little responsibilities that you have to yourself, and that is to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, life will take care of you. That's for sure.
We're in progressive movement every moment where we are to progress. And that's why we've been allowed to come to the earth, is so that we can actually move our bodies and to get what we want. We want something. So and when we negatively go for things is when our lives go topsy-turvy. Or if someone's very mean to you, well, that's on them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually, you talking about reactivity and proactivity. People often, don't even make the difference. They don't even understand what it is, either between reaction and responding. And that is because, like I said, they're not sleeping enough. They're not eating the right foods. They are stressed out. So they don't have the emotional energy or the mental energy to even think about that. So the first thing they do, they just, everything is a threat. Everything and everyone becomes a threat at that level because they have no no capacity for understanding because they're not taking care of themselves. So I have coached and corporate executives. Some of them, are skeptical about meditation in the beginning, and until I convince them that it's nothing but, something that you do to create more awareness. But many of them are under a lot of stress. Some are burned out and they don't eat enough nutrients and they're completely disconnected. And they perform well for a short period of time until they reach the level of burnout, in which I call that inner chaos instead of inner fitness. And they fall off the cliff. You get to the top of the mountain, you succeed, and then guess what? It's very windy at the top. And if you don't have a solid foundation, if you don't have mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual strength, it's only a matter of time before the wind blows you back down. And when you're down, it is very hard to get back up. So to avoid that, I always tell people to create that harmony in their lives, that mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual harmony, filling those reservoirs day in and day out.
Yeah, because I know that so many people feel lost in the world. They, for a time, they go on to their purpose because they've been making goals. But see, they reach their goal and then all of a sudden they get confused on where they're supposed to go again. And the thing, because, it could be very simple. It's a very simple goal. It's not, like you're going to become CEO of some great corporation. It's not those kind of goals. It starts very little and then it goes forward and goes forward. And you're supposed to have fun as you go forward. You're not supposed to, be in utter stress all the time or let who you work for work you to death. Or
I always say this: the ego is at its strength, top strength, when you are at your weakest. So watch out for that. Make sure, like I said, to create harmony in your life, and you're able, like I said earlier, to not react but be responsive. You respond. And, these are the things that need to be done in order not to reach burnout, manage stress, have more clarity in your life, become a good person that you're meant to be. We are meant to be good. The nature of us, of our being, is a good person. But you can't be a good person if you are neglecting yourself. It's impossible. So at the core of everything you teach, beyond psychic abilities, beyond healing techniques, what do you believe human beings are truly searching for?
Love.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that we leave with on this planet is love. I work with a lot of corporations, and executives. A lot of executives have a tendency to dismiss the word love. They think it's a woo-woo. They're referring to love as a weakness thing. Love is the most potent, the most powerful thing we have. And of course, if you live in your head and you're mainly driven by fear and ego, you are going to look at love as a weak part of yourself. Until you switch back and understand, experience what love is, only then will you be able to practice and seek love more often than, because we go from this dance that we have 24/7, from fear to love, fear to love. The key is to be aware that you stepped into fear so you can go back to love. So when you're yelling at your significant others, your husband or wife or your child, you no longer are connected to love. So I have a gentleman, I was doing this lecture at a university, who said to me, well, that's not correct. If I yell at my child because she did something wrong, it's tough love. And my response was very clear. There is no such a tough or soft love. There is only love. This is a cop-out. When you are yelling at a person,
Whether it's your significant other or a child or the clerk or the hostess or the waitress, you are not connected to love. You're not loving these people. You know, when you claim I love my wife or I love my husband and you're yelling at them, you're not loving them, period. So the key is to be aware and step back and say, oh boy, okay, I'm reacting. I'm going to look at fact and evidence of my behavior and their behavior, and we are going to work this out with love. Again, love is absolutely the superpower. And then there's your health, okay? People seek love, they seek health, and people, of course, they want wealth. But I think wealth, you know, a wealthy person, if they're not healthy in mind, body, and spirit, they're not wealthy. Money is not everything. It's something, but it's not everything. So we're going to wrap up, Tara. Thank you for bringing your wisdom, your perspective, and your openness to this conversation, because not very many people are open to that kind of consciousness. Whether people fully understand these ideas yet or not, one thing is understandable. Human beings are searching for meaning, healing, and connection. And today's conversation reminds us that sometimes the greatest journey we'll ever take is inward. And for those listening, if you'd like to continue that journey with me daily, through meditation, reflection, awareness, and transformation, you can pre-order my upcoming book, The No Limits Life book, at www.thenolimitslifebook.com. And I'll send you a copy, Tara, as soon as it's out. Because
love it.
We have this.
My book too. I have mine.
Yeah. Oh yes, please.
Turn on Your Psychic Power is my new book.
How do they get it?
Oh, Amazon. I think it's in Books A Million. Barnes and Noble. It will be soon.
Great.
You know, pretty
Great.
much.
So I'm waiting for my copy. No, I'm gonna order it. So I want to leave the people who are watching and listening with this. This is a tradition that we decided to apply in this new series of the No Limits Life podcast. The deeper you understand yourself, the less you fear the unknown. Most people spend their lives trying to control the outside world while avoiding the inner one. But healing begins the moment you stop running from yourself, the fears, the wounds, the patterns, the unanswered questions. Because what you refuse to face internally will continue to shape your reality externally. It is the willingness to sit in silence long enough to hear your truth beneath the noise. And the beautiful thing is, the more deeply you understand yourself, the less power fear has over you. Because the unknown no longer feels threatened. It becomes a doorway. So take a few moments today to disconnect from the world and reconnect with yourself. And if you're looking for daily guidance and inspiration on that journey, again, pre-order a copy of my upcoming book, The No Limits Life. Yeah, and I have a question for everyone out there. What part of yourself have you been afraid to explore, and what might happen if you finally did? Thank you, Tara. Thank you for always being, you're an incredible person. I love you very much, and I said to people, guys, you need to know this incredible soul. Tara, thank you again. Oh, yeah, you know what? Because my co-host is not here, he is the one who always say, if you like this episode, like, subscribe, and please comment. Till next episode, see you soon.